Meeting to order, please, and stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do roll call. Terry Sachs.
Here.
Marla Hackster.
Here.
Charles Lighting.
Here.
Kevin Tobias here. Tom Keener.
Here.
Carol Shore.
Here.
Township meetings are recorded for the purpose of preparing the minutes, and the recording is destroyed when the minutes have been approved. It is requested that all persons wishing to speak before the board shall state their name, address, and the subject matter which they wish to speak for the record. In the interest of facilitating the business of the board, all persons addressing the board shall be limited to 2 minutes, unless such time is extended by the chairman for good cause. Individuals are requested to remain in their seats and to respect when other persons are speaking. Board of Supervisors will provide a reasonable opportunity for citizens to comment on any non-agenda items after all agenda items have been addressed, but prior to the adjournment of the public meeting. These rules adopted January 30th, 2018. First item on the agenda is we have visitor Crystal Gilchrist to speak about the Township's proposed comprehensive plan.
Sorry, Crystal, before you start, I want to reinforce what Kevin said, is we are not going to have any questions during this presentation. We're going to let her do her presentation and try to get through our agenda a little more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? I usually don't need a microphone, so you good? I'm good? All right. I also have some copies here of the presentation. I don't have a lot of copies, but if people want to start, you want to take one and kind of share amongst yourselves, that's great. If you want to take notes on that, that's fine too. All righty. My name is Crystal Gilchrist. I've been a resident of Lower Frederick Township since about 2002. I have served on the Planning Commission for probably 4 or 5 years, a while back. I'm currently I'm an AICP certified planner, which is a national certification, and I'm also a PMPEI certified trainer in comprehensive planning. PMPEI stands for the Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Education Institute. It is a organization that runs out of Penn State to help municipal officials, planning officials better understand the rules, the regulations, and the processes that they work within. So tonight we're going to talk very briefly about comprehensive planning. It's going to be a very general overview. I'm not going to dive into a lot of details. There's plenty of time for that. But my goal tonight is to provide a context in which comprehensive planning takes place so that anybody who gets involved with this process kind of understands the bigger picture and how all the pieces fit together. Let's see if I can get this to work. There we go. So there's the PMPEI. Some of this training that I give for comprehensive planning is a 9-hour course, done over 3 nights. The PennDOT Connects training is a 4-hour course. It's going to be rolled out for municipal officials probably beginning of next year. We're going to wrap all that up into a slim 20 minutes, I hope. So that being said, I am going to stay very general. So here's what we're going to generally talk about tonight. What does comprehensive planning mean? What does comprehensive mean? What are the elements of a plan? What's consistency mean? Why do you need to be consistent? And then how do you get a good comprehensive plan at the end of this whole process? So you go to a dictionary and look up comprehensive, and basically it just means looking at something from a really broad perspective. You want to be as inclusive as possible in a comprehensive approach to things so that no contingencies are left undiscussed, so that you have a broad understanding of all the elements that go into your future endeavor, whatever that may be. The enabling legislation for municipalities in Pennsylvania is the Municipalities Planning Code. And there is a web address there. If you've got insomnia at all, I guarantee you go to the DCED website, pull up the Municipalities Planning Code, and you'll be out like a light. It is a dense, packed document full of lots of legal sounding information. We're not going to get into in that kind of detail. But municipalities to do all the things that are listed in the code. It consolidated a lot of information. Before this was enacted, there were all kinds of different statutes across the state. So if you came into a community to do some kind of development, you weren't really sure which statutes applied to you in that particular place. So the MPC, known as Act 247, brought all that together so that there was consistent documentation across the state for anybody doing development. It also permits dialogue between municipalities, and it allows for constant evolution and changing as things go forward. So the municipalities planning code does not require a municipality to have a comprehensive plan. It permits you to have one, and if you do choose to have one, it outlines how you go about creating that plan. We are currently a part of the Central Perkiomen Regional Comprehensive Plan effort. We do not have a comprehensive plan of our own. Thank you, Kevin. Is that better? So the purpose of the municipality's planning code, the original purpose is on the left. Probably can't read that in the back, but it's to accomplish coordinated community development. Like I said before, development was all over the place, literally, before this was enacted. Nobody knew what to do where. So this coordinated all that into a process that allows for community development. One of the big purposes of the Act is to provide for the general welfare of each community. You'll see that in a lot of documentation in almost every ordinance that we have. Starts with the purpose to protect the general welfare, health, and general welfare of the community. It improved government processes and made it consistent across the state. I can't read it on my page either, so I thought I'd turn it around. It provided a guide for how communities can address land use issues, as well as where you're going to put roads, where you're going to put public facilities, all those types of things. And it allowed the community to identify problems that exist or that may exist and figure out a way to address those going forward. In 2000, the Act was amended to permit intermunicipal planning, and that's how we came to be in the Central Perkiomen Regional Plan. It also expanded the authority of the community to preserve things like natural resources, prime ag lands, those types of areas. It also gave a little protection to the agricultural community. As in the 80s in particular, as development really swarmed over most of the region, a lot of farmers were getting pushed out as suburbia moved in. Not because they wanted to sell their land, but because of complaints from their new neighbors. So this edition of the MPC gave them some protection. And it also gave tools for how to rejuvenate a lot of older urban areas that were having a lot of problems. So the MPC is broken down into different articles. These are the articles in the MPC. Some of them are new, and that's why you see the A addendum on some of the numbers. This is what provides guidance for municipalities to do zoning, to do subdivision and land development ordinances, to provide an official map. It outlines how your zoning hearing board is supposed to operate. It outlines how your planning commission is supposed to operate. It gives you all these guidelines for moving your community forward through time. We're going to deal with just article number 3, which is a comprehensive plan. And that section of the MPC is only about 5 or 6 pages long, but it's jam-packed with information. So, why do comprehensive? Before we talk about a comprehensive plan, I want to take you on a little trip. I want you to imagine that it's your heart's desire to go on this grand fishing trip to Quebec, Canada. You've always wanted to go, by golly, you're going to do it. So, you decide you're going to do it, and the first thing you have to do, you don't just jump in your car and go to Quebec. You have things to think about. You have plans to make. You got to decide where you're going to go. Big lake, small lake. We're going to stay at a lodge. We're going to camp. We're going to take our boat with us. We're going to get a boat up there. Is there an outfitter who's going to provide this for us? Do we have maps to get us where we're going to go? Do we have a passport? All these questions you have to ask yourself before you start on a long journey. A comprehensive plan is your plan for your long journey as a community to 20 or 30 years in the future. When you plan this fishing trip, you're going to Quebec. You know you're going to do it. You figure out how you're going to make that happen. When your community is going 20 or 30 years in the future, you also have to have a plan. You have to figure out what you're going to need, how you're going to get there, what's going to change in the meantime that we're going to have to adjust to. So as we talk about a comprehensive plan, kind of keep in mind a trip that you maybe have planned at some point in your life, and all the different elements of that planning that you had to go put together, all the to-do lists, everything that you had to prepare for that trip. And that's how we're going to think about a comprehensive plan. There you go. So, what all's in a comprehensive plan? What's it cover? Well, the first thing a comprehensive plan does is it provides an official statement of what the governing body's goals are. And those goals come from the community. There's a lot of conversation that goes into this before you can come up with an official statement for the government. But that gets put into the comprehensive plan and is very specific. It shows how all the pieces of your plan are going to work together. Think about your fishing trip. If you decide you want to stay in a lodge, and that's fine, you want to stay in a lodge, you can fly in, well then how are you going to get there? You have to figure out how you're going to fly in, who flies there, do we have to charter a flight or is there some other way to get there? Are we going to have to rent a boat? Do we have to figure out how way to get our boat there? These are all the elements of your fishing trip plan that have to mesh together for you to have a successful fishing trip when you get to Quebec. So the comprehensive plan does that for all the elements of your plan. It shows how they fit together, how they support each other, how they move the whole process forward. It gives you tools for evaluating that process. One of your to-do lists on the boat might be, well, the dang squirrels got in and chewed up all the electric lines in my boat, so I have to take the boat and get it repaired before I can even think about going on this trip. Well, that's one of your tools for evaluating how far you're going to go. Your boat's not going to work without the electric, so you have to get that fixed. Just like in your community, you might have a list of things that you have to pull together before your plan comes together. And once you have that plan in your pocket, it's going to guide all of your future development decisions for that 20 or 30 years into the future, which is the trip that your community is going to take. If you have a comprehensive plan but you don't follow it, all the effort was for naught. But if you have a comprehensive plan and you wrap your zoning ordinance into that and you wrap your subdivision regulations into that, then you start to build the foundation for moving that plan forward. So if you have a comprehensive plan, these are the 10 elements the MPC says you must have in it. You can have other things, you can have more, but you must have at least these. So in terms of the analogy of our fishing trip, the development goals, your goal for your trip is to successfully get to Quebec and catch a lot of fish and bring a bunch of them home in the cooler. That's your development goal. You want to know where your community is going. What kind of community do we want to be in 20, 30 years? And this plan is going to help us get there. Just to skip around a little bit. Housing needs. 20 to 30 years from now, we don't know who else is going to live in this community. Just like we have to figure that out. Just like we have to figure out who's going to go on our trip with us. How many people are we going to take with us? Do we have to get a room for everybody? Do we need more than one cabin? Do we need more than one car? All these things rely on how many people are going to be in your trip. The transportation plan, you think if you're making a long trip, hey, you got to get your car inspected, you got to make sure it's working right. If you're going to take that boat, that trailer is going to be inspected. You got to have maps because you're going to be out of range of your gadget on your phone. You have to think about all these things ahead of time and how you're going to move yourself and your goods to where you want to be. All of these things kind of relate back to that trip. The interrelation of the components tell you, okay, if I get a lodge, I don't need to rent a cabin. And if I get a lodge, there are enough rooms for everybody, I don't have to worry about how many people we're taking along. Well, Or, in your plan, if we're going to propose high-rise development in one part of our community, but we want to keep our roads, these nice, quaint, local rural roads, those two parts of your plan aren't going to interrelate very well. They're going to be in opposition to each other. So you want to make sure that what you put into the plan, the pieces all fit together. You're going to have implementation strategies, long-term and short-term. For your trip, you know it's going to take at least 6 months before your passport gets renewed, so you have to do that early. You have to send that off early. You know you're going to pack a lot of food with you. If you don't want to buy the food early, you want to plan it. Pick that up at the very last thing before you leave town. All these implementation strategies are on these to-do lists that you're going to have for your trip, and they're going to have a timeline associated with them, so you know you get it done in time to leave for your trip. So all these elements of your comprehensive plan are like different aspects of a big trip that you're going to take, and you want to pull them all together and make sure that they're compatible with each other and that they move your plan forward. And that, like I said, this is all very general. I'm not going to get into too much more detail than this. This is the context that we're going to talk about comprehensive planning in. So as you build that plan, you want to first consider what are the strengths, what are the assets of our community? What do we like best about this community that we want to preserve into the future? You know, on your trip, you're a good fisherman. You can handle a boat. You're definitely going on a fishing trip. So that kind of fits together. But in terms of the limitations and weaknesses, you might decide, once you start to see what things are going to cost, maybe I'm not going to have enough money for this trip. I better start putting an extra $10 a week away in my savings account to make sure I've got this trip covered when the time comes. So in your community, you look at things that maybe aren't as strong as you'd like them to be, and how can you overcome those limitations? How can you make those into more of a benefit for the community? You look at the services that the municipality has that maybe you don't, you need them, but you don't have them right now. With regard to our trip again, your old motorboat, your motor keeps conking out. I'm going to have to go buy a new motor for my boat before I take this trip, because if I don't, I'm going to get stranded on the lake someplace. So you have to think about the things that you're going to need that you don't have, that you're going to want to find a way to get. Improve the situations that aren't good. My poor dad's boat, the squirrels eat up his electric every year. And every year he's going to go get it fixed before he can take his boat out. So you have to figure out a way to keep the squirrels out of the boat shed. Or, in terms of our plan, you have to figure out situations in your community that aren't working the way they should, and we have to figure out a way to turn them around and make them work for us. And above all, we have to think about what is going to happen in the future that we may not know about. What are the contingencies that we have to plan for on our trip? Are you going to go on a trip to the far reaches of Quebec without a first aid kit? No. Are you going to take your boat to Quebec without a little toolkit in your boat in case something goes wrong? No. You don't want something to go wrong. You're not hoping for something to go wrong, but you're going to be ready for it if it does. So the comprehensive plan works the same way. You look at your strengths, you look at your weaknesses, what you want to have happening in your community, what's not happening now, and what you might have to plan for in the future. So, consistency. On your trip, you get ready to plan your trip, and you tell your travel partner, I am planning the most fabulous trip you can imagine. There's going to be water and sun and great food, and you'll need your passport, and I'm going to take care of everything. Don't worry about a thing. I got it all covered. And your partner has one image in her mind. You show up the day of your vacation, you got your LL Bean boots on, your flannel shirt, your boat's all packed with your fishing gear, and your partner comes out with a broad-brimmed hat, a Hawaiian shirt, and her sandals. There's going to be a conversation there. Somebody's going to be disappointed with the outcome of that plan because there was no conversation beforehand. The plans were not consistent with each other as the planning went forward. So you want to make sure that when we start to do a comprehensive plan, that we as a community have a consistent vision for what we want our community to be going forward. We don't want half of the community think we're going to Quebec, and half of the community think we're going to Aruba. That's going to cause problems. So we have to work long and hard up front to come up with a common vision. We also want to be fairly consistent with our neighbors so that our plans aren't in opposition to theirs. We also want to make sure that the comprehensive plan, as great as it might be, is consistent with all our little checklists of how we're going to get there. So the zoning has to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Subdivision ordinances have to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. All these things tie together to support the vision in that comprehensive plan and get you on the trip that you want to have. So you work long and hard to prepare a plan. And doing a comprehensive plan, you probably need to plan 9 months to a year to accomplish that, depending on how much vigor you can put into it. But once it's prepared, you have to adopt it. And that's a distinct, separate action from preparing the plan. The Board of Supervisors officially adopts the plan, and there's a whole process in the NPC about how you do that, covering public meetings and advertisements, all that. But once you have adopted that plan, it's like you've bought the tickets to your trip. You're committed. You have an adopted comprehensive plan. And now you have a guide for all the actions that you're going to take in the future for your community to make that journey into the future. So once it's adopted, it's your plan. And you have to ensure that all your actions build on the goals of that plan. And that's one of the consistency things between the plan and the actions the community takes. So how do you get a good comprehensive plan? A, you have to be willing to put the time and the energy into the hard work of building the vision and pulling all the pieces of the plan together. You're going to need to spend some money, no doubt about it. If you're going on a trip and you need a new motorboat, a new boat for your motor, you're going to have to spend that money, or you're going to be stranded in the middle of the lake someplace. If you're building a comprehensive plan and you don't take the time to build a unified vision for the community, halfway down that journey, half of your population is going to be very unhappy, and the other half might be happy or not. They still might have different visions of what their goal is. So you need to spend time developing that common vision. You need some technical assistance. A lot of these elements of the plan require a lot of number crunching, demographics, employment projections, all that type of stuff. So you will need some technical assistance for that. And you need a dedicated committee at the local level to crack the whip and make sure the process keeps moving forward. A comprehensive planning process can languish really easily because it's a lot of work, and if somebody's not there to keep pushing it forward, it just kind of falls by the wayside. And if you do all that, by the time you get to the end of the process, you should have broad support in your community for this common vision for 20 or 30 years in the future, and we will all take that journey together in a happy boat instead of a leaky boat or separate boats going different directions.